clap.
Oh, we're on a low budget, aren't we?
It's the ABC. You might notice by now.
I'll have to talk to Ita.
That's a good trick.
R3025, the Paul Hogan special, replay to be advised.
We've tried to put together a show for you tonight that has the pace, excitement and glamour of the ABC weather forecast.
He was original, an individual, authentic. He had this appeal that touched everybody, from 8 to 80.
He was the realest thing on television, and he was just being himself.
What I'm saying to you is you have to come inside my head. Come inside, there's lots of room.
British don't want a nation of cockneys. Why do we want a nation of Paul Hogans?
There's plenty of Hogans out there in the pubs, and I tell you what, they're all right.
I think he represented us Australians beautifully. He was funny like we all wanted to be funny.
There's no way to describe it as anything other than sexist. But they were sexist times.
You wouldn't get away with it now. No way. It was a bit sexist and a bit racist. And it was really funny.
Mixed bag, as you can see today. Caused mostly by this cold front up here in the Gulf.
There was no malice in it. And usually the butt of the joke ended up being me.
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Just kids having fun.
And how do you top that? And there's this pressure to top that.
Action.
You know whatever you do next is doomed to failure.
Cut, no.
But I'm not allowed to have regrets. If I have regrets, some hairy thunderer should come down from the sky and smack me down and say, how much luck do you want in your life?
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Hogan.
Good evening, viewers.
The first time I was aware of Paul Hogan was when I was directing New Faces, right back when, I think it was 40, 50 years ago or whatever.
New Faces was a talent show that started in the 1960s, hosted at first by Frank Wilson, and it's sort of the Australia's Got Talent of its day, but the judges were really mean.
I went on New Faces to take the mickey out of it. I'm one of the few people that ever went on a talent quest and had no intention or desire to win it.
To get on the show in those days, you wrote in a letter. Dear sirs, I am Australia's leading tap dancing knife thrower. Thought that'll get him.
He got sick of watching the judges strip the contestants into pieces in a mean way. That really riled him.
Here we go. Tap dancing and knife throwing at the same time.
When it come to the part where they judge you, I said, oh, I don't need that, I know I'm good, and sort of walked off. And that was, that's what began my career. The fact that the Australian audience, television audience, knew I didn't care.
When Paul was applying to go on New Faces, and he thought, where can I say I'm from? Oh, Lightning Ridge. And so from that, I think it got established that Paul was born in Lightning Ridge, where he was actually born in Sydney.
I wasn't born in Lightning Ridge, but I got some lovely presents from the people at Lightning Ridge. And apparently there was some place up there they were saying this is where I used to live for their tourism, so I wasn't going to shoot that down.
And that becomes the myth. People, oh, no, he was born in Lightning Ridge. I want to argue with you about it.
I was a Westie. That's where I grew up. Granville, Chullora, Bankstown, Greenacre, dead set Westie. I've got a younger brother and an older sister. My dad was in the Army, and then after the war, he's chief purchasing officer or something for an Army canteen. My mum was a very self-contained, steady woman. Never seemed to worry about anything, except she was worried that I was on television and I wasn't dressed nice. You know, an old-fashioned lady. That's why she lived to be 101, I think. But no, you know, we were sort of a regular family for that era. I was never the class clown, but yes, I was a bit of a know-all and a bit of a troublemaker, a stirrer, yeah. And the worst thing happened, they brought in IQ tests, and I had to do it, so I did it. It turned out, you know, I had this really high IQ. So I was constantly under pressure to be, to live up, but I was just good at doing IQ tests. I'm not really clever. That's what I'm good at. And so I couldn't wait to get out of school and get out into the real world. Yeah.
Did you have any real ideas as to entering any sort of trade or profession?
No. Whatever come along.
Well, what came along?
Oh, well, naturally, when you leave school, there are always hundreds of people after you. Want you to work for them, you know, offer you wonderful jobs like sweeping the streets and cleaning sewers and things like that.
Right, there you go. All right.
My first job, 15 years old, was apprentice moulder, which is a terrible job. It's like working in hell. It gave me a hard body and a lot of blackheads. That's what I got out of the foundry. And then I finally walked away from that before I finished the apprenticeship. I was living in Granville then, and I was a larrikin, as all my friends were. Nothing spectacular. I had a bad temper. I don't know why. It's just things that set me off violently.
Bloody useless heap of shit.
I mean, an awful movie they had on Channel 7, which was supposed to be me. They had a kid acting as me throwing a lawnmower. That really happened, but I threw it over the fence.
Shitty piece of no good.
It was a lawnmower that wouldn't start. But the funny part to me was the embarrassment of going in next door and asking, can I get my mower back? They didn't put that in the movie. They missed all the humour. I think it was just a teenage thing that having a bad temper. That's why I got into boxing. And that took it away. It's sort of self-discipline. It sort of stopped being bad-tempered. It was the best thing could have happened.
But I found me niche in life as a swimming pool attendant. I thought that was my first important job anyway.
Paul used to be a lifeguard and he used to like showing off to all the girls. And he met Nolene that way through at the swimming pool.
And I was a massive flirt. I liked her and she liked me and we got married. I was a dad at 19. I actually had 3 sons by the time I was 22. So I had to grow up very fast. But I sort of dug it. I loved it. And we grew up together. Yeah. Me and my kids.
We had a little 2-bedroom house in Chullora. The 3 boys were in together and Mum and Dad were in together. Very suburban. Dad was like one of the kids, really, so he was sort of Mum's 4th child.
I ended up settling down on the Harbour Bridge, and it was work like, you know, getting up at 5:45 in the morning, get on a bus and a train and then go to work and sort of come home and kids would play in the backyard, football and stuff like that.
We used to go and visit him for lunch. Mum would take us down and she'd point up where he was.
Yeah, it was financially always a struggle, but didn't know any other life, so didn't have any problems with it.
Paul Hogan's big break came when he was invited to appear on A Current Affair, which was Mike Willis's new show that he had started with a journalist called John Cornell.
Welcome to A Current Affair.
Because John came from a newspaper background, he was used to working with a newspaper cartoonist. And so with A Current Affair, he was looking for the TV equivalent.
And they looked and searched and tried and found nothing. And then a journalist said, I saw the guy. And they said, really? Yeah, he was on New Faces. They all looked at that and said, yep, this is the guy.
Thanks for coming in, Paul, and giving us a hand.
Hello, Mrs Universe.
Hello, Paul.
Nice seeing you up, love.
Miss Universe.
They were looking for someone to give the man in the street's opinion, you know, and I was a genuine man in the street.
And he would just come in after work on the bridge and very casually get in front of the camera and do his piece.
What are the particular qualities that you look for in a man, or that you admire in a male?
I like a man to be strong on the outside like you and gentle on the inside.
And it was never a script. It was always what I thought I'd say. And then whatever come out in front of the camera, that's what went to air.
There is one little thing, love. This is a program goes to air at 7 o'clock, and if you'd keep your hand off me leg, please, I would.
They got a tremendous reaction from audiences. You know, the letters came flowing in, and straight away, you know, people could see that this guy really had something.
It must have been an extraordinary episode in your life when you were, in fact, working on the bridge and were at the same time, a national television celebrity.
That was a bit of embarrassment. I was still sort of climbing up and down the cords and over the top of the arch and lumping gear all day, and people driving under in their cars sort of going, there he is! So they had to sort of keep me in places where I couldn't be seen from the public.
I'd be on national television one night expounding my views, taking their ratings up, and the next day I'd be on the train with the audience, you know, giving me advice. Yeah, that poor and famous sucks.
John Cornell is a really clever man, and he guided Paul's career. There was no end to John's vision.
And we just sort of hit it off straight away. We were the same type of person. And he said, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, you should have your own show. And I said, oh. You know that stuff you think about, start writing it down. And
I think if John didn't come into Paul's life, Paul would just lazily crash through, and he'd probably still be on the bridge.
He knew what to do with me. No one else did.
He always said from day one that less is more. He always said that you had to always leave the audience wanting more.
G'day. I've been asked to talk to you, see, and being the suave, sophisticated man about town, I thought I'd do the job with a bit of, you know, polish, a touch of class.
It was really John Cornell that decided that Paul had to be presented under the best circumstances with the biggest budgets. That started with the Winfield ads.
John saw the great juxtaposition between the working class man and some very classy projects.
What it did was beautifully poke fun at pomposity. And it really made Winfield, which is a cheaper brand of cigarettes, so pitched at people who weren't rich, feel good about buying it.
I regret the cigarette one, but I did smoke them. And, you know, I was just... And in those days, doctors recommend Chesterfield. Cigarettes were good for us, you know, as far as we knew.
See me there, son? We'll sort England's problems out in about 2 days flat, and then we'll have a bit of fun, eh?
Yeah. John always saw himself as somebody behind the scenes, right? And then he was roped into being this Strop character on camera.
Where to, Gob? Number 10 down the street, me son. Quick as you can.
They thought, well, let's do some Hogan specials in that format of a roving camera, a crew on the road, a lot of spontaneity.
Well, there it is, mate. That's our house. What do you think of it, eh?
Beautiful, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, sure big.
What would she have for breakfast, mate?
Oh, probably have a big feed of prawns and a couple of cans like everyone else, I suppose.
First one was Hogs in Singapore, and then we did London, which was very funny because we had, I'll only remind the other day, we had Jermaine Greer in it as Strop's sister.
G'day, Sid.
Hello, darling. How are you? Doesn't he look terrific?
Yeah, he does. You're not the first Sheila in London to say that either.
So we had a broad appeal.
I'm sorry, Darryl, but I'm going to have to tell Mum.
It was decided that in Hogan making the transition out of A Current Affair, it would be through the company that John Cornell had formed with Clyde Packer and Mike Willesee.
I think I should take charge of this.
They were doing the Hogan in London special, and the talk was already well and truly underway regarding a variety show, and all of a sudden, there is this massive nuclear explosion.
So Willesee inferred to Clyde Packer that John had misspent production money funds, which he hadn't.
Clyde was really angry with John, and I was in the room too, standing there next to him, and he was starting to do this finger point thing. It was close to John, and I know John, I know myself. And thought, any minute now that finger's going to touch John, and John's going to go for him.
John leapt across the room and grabbed Clyde by the caftan, you know, at the back of the neck, and said, that's an effing lie and you effing know it. So take it back. And Clyde said, oh, I take it back. And he said, louder. I didn't hear you. I made him say it again. And he said it again.
That was pretty much the end of the relationship between John Cornell and Willisey and Packer. And then that left Paul Hogan and John Cornell out there on their own.
We had nothing. I mean, John didn't have a heap of money and, we were cast adrift. And there's nothing like that sort of adversity to bring out the best in people.
When we fell out with Clyde Packer, we went to Channel 7 and had a good time there, and then Kerry took over and said, come home, son, come back to 9.
A genuine stuffed owl.
Ah, beautiful, mate. It's a wonderful thing, preserving wildlife, isn't it, mate?
Strop was a schoolyard character of John's, and he was virginal, chronic masturbator, one-track mind. Probably every teenage boy in Australia could relate to Strop. But he had this beautiful innocence about him.
Geez, it was a hell of a party, mate, wasn't it? Did I have a good time?
Strop was like the eternal clown, hiding behind a pervert's facade. I wouldn't trust him. He was banned from our house.
Hiya, Delvine. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Delvine, tell me, when you parade before the judges, what do you think about it?
The least possible thing. I try to have my mind just concentrating on what I'm doing, and that's all.
I was what you would refer to these days as a slashy. Model / beauty queen / TV presenter / general dog's body.
She was the Queensland weather girl, and I met her at some sort of television function. And I said to John, you know, I've found a girl for you. Because he was a terrible pants man, John. He was all over the place. It was a match made in heaven, him and Delvine.
John and I met in March of 1975 in a hotel in Paddington when he approached me and said, you don't know me, I'm John Cornell. Would you like to be on the Paul Hogan show? I said, yes, please. So he'd waited till the boy I was with went to the bathroom and took it from there. And so by May, John and I were a couple.
Miss Penelope, I presume?
Charmed.
Sorry.
My mother was mortified when I told her I'm dating John Cornell. Who? I'm dating Strop. But then she met John and realised that there was this genius, intelligent mind behind that clown's facade.
I can get by without bikini top. I can get by without much of a brain. I can get by without my legs. I can't really get by with my legs.
For someone as pretty as she was, she also had no vanity attached.
Stop. Fly. Do you fly up, mate? What's on it?
There was real affection between Delvine, John and Paul, and it showed in the performances and it showed in their attitudes. They just had fun doing it. Nobody was ever stressed. They just loved it. They were confident in the material that was written. They played it out.
The deal I had with Gary Packer was when I think of enough funny ideas and put it together, I'll put a show on. And, you know, and if I don't think any next month or the month after, there won't be a show.
Now, after number 10 is...
And he was happy with that. Was, you know, they never got beat in the ratings. That's why.
Some of the Paul Hogan shows dated because obviously times have changed.
Women are really there only in the way that they are seen by men. So it's a very male gaze, the whole show.
But it was the 70s and anything went. And I think of some of the clothing that I wore on that show. I'd be mortified if my own daughters got up and did television wearing double denim.
The sketches were designed not for you to perv on the girls, but to show what idiots we men can make of ourselves over an attractive woman. So it is a bit sexist, and I apologise to the men.
The trouble with that kind of humour is that it does actually give permission for men to behave like that. Nobody was aware of that at the time. It wasn't intentional, I get that. But I think it did give a kind of permission to treat women generally as tits and bums.
What about the effect on your family, your wife and children? Has it changed them at all to suddenly be the wife and children of the famous Paul Hogan?
Certain loss of privacy, but, you know, my kids can look after themselves.
Obviously, everybody's life changed. Everybody's life changes with any degree of celebrity, and you don't wish it on your children.
The big thing as a kid, I suppose, was we moved. We were entrenched in the western suburbs in Chullora. I loved it there. And then just remembered that we were going to move away from all our mates and go and live in Mossman, which is some place I'd never heard of and didn't particularly want to go to.
Oh, it was hard for all my kids then. It was, you know, thrust into a limelight that they didn't invite. So I kept it as much as we could, left it at the gate.
Well, the first day we changed schools, I got hauled up by the teacher and made to stand up in front of everyone and get told I wasn't going to be specially treated. So obviously I was already being specially treated for not doing anything. And so I hated that, and then everything became, you know, oh, is he really your father, and blah, blah.
From what I saw, he maintained a very normal household, as did Nolene. And so even though Nolene would love to go to the Logies and all the special events, they didn't seek the limelight. It was more about family.
She was a terrific mum. She was Carol Brady, I suppose. It was that sort of thing, you know. It was chops on Monday, sausages Tuesday. We knew what was coming.
I think because they were kids when Paul was still working on the bridge, they're still very much that very grounded family from the suburbs in Sydney, and they've always all had very real jobs. And showbiz has been this crazy thing Dad does from time to time.
G'day. Thought I might be able to see America from up here. You're just across the Pacific, you know. Hello. Looks like a boatload of your countrymen coming in there now.
The tourism ads came about because John and Paul were walking past Australia House in London and saw a picture of a koala that was our poster campaign for tourism, and were a bit disappointed and thought they could do a much better job.
And you're going to have to learn to say g'day. Because every day's a good day in Australia.
G'day, Paul.
G'day, love.
And ours was the campaign that said, you know, we'd love to see you. We're good, we're fun people, come down here and give them an invitation. That's why it went through the roof.
Australia is where the sun shines on thousands of miles of the world's great beaches.
The deal that John made for those commercials was not that John be paid or Paul be paid, but was that they put the highest production quality into the commercials and that they bought prime time television in America.
Come on, come and say g'day. I'll slip an extra shrimp on the barbie for you.
The shrimp on the Barbie tourism ads are the single best tourism campaign Australia has ever done to this day. And I think they established the Australian character on the international stage.
Tell them it's where the America's Cup is.
It was certainly in John's mind that the way to get a movie up in America would be for people to recognise Paul Hogan's face.
Paul had been thinking about the character of Mick Dundee, I think, for a while.
I just got bored of writing sketches. And I thought, I'd like to do something that lasts longer than 4 minutes. And I started writing a sketch when I was in New York doing a tourism promotion. And by the time I got back from there, the sketch was about half an hour long. John was doing the World Series cricket stuff then, and I took it to him and said, what do you think? He said, oh, that'll be great, we'll make it. And we did.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
First-time director, first-time producer, first-time lead actor, first-time leading lady, but they were backed by the experience of Russell Boyd behind camera and all of his incredible crew.
We had to audition actresses to play the part of Sue. Paul wasn't interested in who that person might be. As it turns out, of course, it was Linda Kozlowski. She came out to Australia, not really knowing what she was getting into.
Two beers, all right? One for me, one for me mate.
One for your mate, you mad bugger.
She thought I was a little bit, I remember saying, she thought I was a little bit aloof or a little bit closed.
Sue Charlton Newsday.
The first time they met was at a rehearsal that I was running. Linda wanted to rehearse, Paul didn't. It was a very difficult day. Linda and I were staying at the hotel, the same hotel together. Paul was living at home, and Linda basically wanted to go home.
Well, I hope you're not going to be the strong, silent type.
Me?
Reluctant to talk about yourself?
Nah, favourite subject.
Great.
She went to Juilliard, which is the most famous theatrical school in America. She went there on a scholarship. So she was, a really good actress. I was just sort of like, make it up as I go along.
Are you telepathic?
Nah, common sense. You're a woman, you're a reporter. That makes you the biggest busybody in the world.
As it turns out, this rather difficult association manifested itself into a closer and closer and closer relationship through the movie. And we happened to shoot the whole movie in sequence. So as the movie went on, they understood each other better. So in a strange way, a lot of what we saw on air was true life.
Linda came to me at one point and was worried about it because she knew Paul was married. But it was unstoppable.
When Crocodile Dundee premiered, I was worried that it was going to be embarrassing.
G'day.
Hello. Crocodile Dundee had just come out, and here he was in a hospital bed, maybe not going to survive.
I'm not a great husband. I'm good early.
I've got 5 children to think about.
No, my wife and I are separated, and I'm now with Linda Kozlowski, and that's the sort of full story.
Was it wham bam?
And the press wanted to destroy him.
I want to cave in heads. I really do.
Unfortunately, John, in his heyday, got early signs of Parkinson's disease.
He always kept low-key about it because he didn't want to become the Parkinson's guy,
The ATO alleges he owes millions of dollars of unpaid taxes.
Yeah, it did make me angry. Made me want to thump somebody. So I haven't really got it out of my system yet.